pause and listen, really listen. Have you ever been at a party, laughter swirling around you, conversations buzzing, and yet you feel absolutely alone? Maybe you've scrolled through endless group chats, liked a dozen photos, replied to texts, and somehow the emptiness still lingers. Or maybe you're the one everyone turns to, the friend who always picks up the phone. Yet late at night you find yourself staring at the ceiling, aching for a connection that actually feels real. If this is you, if you've ever asked yourself, why do I feel so lonely, even with friends? Is something wrong with me? Then stop. Breathe. Because you are not broken, you are not weak, and you are definitely not alone. Today on MindMirror, we're going to shatter the biggest myths about loneliness. We'll dive deep into the science and soul of human connection, guided by the groundbreaking research of John Cacioppo and William Patrick. You'll discover why loneliness isn't a flaw, it's a survival signal, hardwired into your brain and body for a reason. And, most importantly, you'll learn practical, powerful tools to respond to that signal in a new way, so you can begin to heal, reconnect, and transform your experience from silent pain into a source of strength. This isn't just another think positive pep talk. This is a journey into your own mind, one that promises not just understanding, but real, actionable change. Are you ready? Let's begin by blowing up the most toxic idea we've been taught, that loneliness is a sign of weakness, or worse, a personal failure. Let me ask you, have you ever felt ashamed of being lonely? Did you ever hide it, believing it means you're just not good enough at relationships, or somehow less than everyone else who seems happy, busy, and loved? If so, you're not alone. Shame is the silent partner of loneliness, whispering, if only you were different. This wouldn't happen. But here's what the science says loud and clear. Loneliness is not a defect in your character. It's a survival mechanism built deep into your biology. Think of it like hunger or physical pain. When you're hungry, your body is signaling that you need food. When you feel pain, your body is warning you of danger. Loneliness is the same. It's a psychological and physical signal that your need for connection is unmet, a need as fundamental as food or safety. Cacioppo's research shows that the brain regions activated during social rejection, the pain of being left out, are the same as those activated by actual physical pain. Loneliness hurts, and that pain is there for a reason. It pushes you to notice what's missing, to seek out meaningful connection, and to repair the social bonds that, for most of human history, have literally meant the difference between life and death. Imagine our ancestors on the savannah. Being alone meant vulnerability, no tribe, no safety, no survival. Evolution shaped us to stay connected, to care about belonging, to feel distress when that bond frayed. So if you feel lonely, it doesn't mean you're broken. It means your inner alarm system is working. So what does this mean for you? It means that feeling lonely is not something to be ashamed of. It's a vital signal. Instead of seeing it as an enemy, you can treat it like an ally, a message from your body and mind that something deeply human needs your attention. When was the last time you stopped judging yourself for your loneliness and started listening to it? Could you try that just for today? Next time loneliness rises, pause. Name it. This is a signal, not a flaw. What does your mind need? What connection feels missing? Shift the question from "what's wrong with me?" to "what is my inner wisdom trying to tell me?" Let's bust another myth, the idea that loneliness is simply about being alone. or not having enough people around you. The truth is far more complicated and much more relevant to the modern world. Have you ever found yourself surrounded by people at school, at work, in your own family, yet still feel like nobody truly sees you? Maybe your calendar is full, your social media overflowing with friends, and yet you feel empty, even invisible. This is what Cacioppo calls perceived social isolation. It's not the objective number of connections that matters most. It's the quality and depth of those connections. The modern world is a paradox. We are more connected than ever, yet loneliness is at epidemic levels. Social media, group chats, networking events, they promise connection, but often deliver a hollow echo instead. Why? Because the brain can't be fooled. Superficial interactions, forced small talk, or relationships that never touch your real self. These don't feed the hunger for meaningful belonging. Instead, they can intensify your sense of isolation. Here's the kicker: research shows that chronic loneliness doesn't just feel bad, it makes you sick. It's linked to increased risk of heart disease, weakened immune function, higher inflammation, and even shorter lifespan. In fact, loneliness can be as damaging as smoking or obesity. So why does this matter to your life? It means you can't solve loneliness just by adding more contacts, followers, or random social events. The real cure is authentic connection, where you feel seen, understood, and valued. How many of your current relationships truly offer that? Are there places where you're hiding your real self, settling for surface connection instead of the deeper bond you crave? What's one small risk you could take to show up more honestly? Quality over quantity. Seek out or nurture even one relationship where you feel safe to be real. If you don't have that right now, that's not your fault. But the journey starts with acknowledging what you truly need, not what the world tells you should be enough. So let's pause for a moment. Loneliness isn't weakness. It's a vital biological signal. And you can feel it even when surrounded by people, because what matters is real connection, not just being near others. If this feels painfully true for you, you're not alone. In fact, you're living out a very modern, very human paradox. Let's go one level deeper. Did you know that chronic loneliness doesn't just hurt your feelings or body? It actually changes the way you think, perceive, and act. Cacioppo's research reveals a subtle but powerful effect. When you're lonely for a long time, your brain shifts into self-preservation mode. You become more alert for social threats, signs of rejection, criticism, or being left out. This hypervigilance makes sense from an evolutionary view. If being alone is dangerous, your brain wants to keep you safe. But here's the trap. When you're in this mode, you may interpret neutral interactions as negative, misread signals, or withdraw even further. You might become less trusting, less open, and more likely to believe that others are judging or excluding you even when that isn't the case. This creates a vicious cycle. The pain of loneliness leads to self-protective behaviors, pulling back, hiding, expecting rejection. These behaviors make it harder to reach out or receive the very connection you need, which deepens the isolation. The longer this goes on, the more your social pain rewires your mind and habits. Ask yourself, in moments when you felt most alone, did you find yourself retreating, even from people who might care? Did you start to believe, no one could really understand me, or I'm just different? If so, that's not your fault. It's your brain's ancient safety mechanism. But recognizing this pattern is the first step to changing it. So, what could you do with this insight? First, Notice your story about loneliness. Are you turning inward, making assumptions about how others see you, or expecting rejection before it happens? Could you challenge just one of these beliefs, even in a small way? For example, instead of withdrawing, could you try reaching out to someone with a simple message, even if it feels risky? Loneliness breeds caution, but caution can create more loneliness. Awareness interrupts this loop. Every time you notice the self-protection reflex, ask, is there another way I could respond right now? What's a small act of courage I could try? So far, we've seen that loneliness is a survival signal, not a weakness. That it can haunt you even in a crowd, because connection is about depth, not numbers. And that the longer you feel lonely, the more your mind gets caught in a self-fulfilling cycle. But here's the good news: these patterns can be changed, and you have more power than you think. Let's turn now from problem to solution. If loneliness is a pain signal, then what is the healing process? The answer may be much simpler and more accessible than you think. We often imagine that fixing loneliness requires dramatic changes, finding a soulmate, making a huge new group of friends, or becoming a social superstar. But the science says otherwise. What really works, according to Cacioppo's decades of research, is building micro-connections, small, authentic moments of real contact, even with strangers or acquaintances. A smile exchanged with the barista, a genuine thank you to a coworker, pausing to listen, really listen, to someone's answer when you ask how their day is going. These tiny acts are like emotional vitamins. They don't fix everything overnight, but they nourish your need for belonging, one moment at a time. Here's why micro-connections matter. They remind your brain that the world is not always hostile or indifferent. They create positive feedback loops, encouraging you to reach out more and making others more likely to respond in kind. Over time, these moments accumulate, slowly rewiring your perception of yourself and your place in the world. What does this mean for your life? You don't have to wait until you feel confident, outgoing, or fixed to start connecting. In fact, it's the micro-connections' tiny acts of showing up, even when you feel awkward or vulnerable, that begin to melt the ice. What's one micro-connection you could create today? Who's one person you could offer a small kindness or a moment of honest presence to? Don't underestimate the power of small gestures, Each one is a vote for a more connected you, and each one chips away at the myth that no one cares. Even if some attempts fall flat, each act is a step forward. Remember, the journey out of loneliness isn't about grand gestures or instant transformation. It's about changing your relationship with the signal, treating it as a guide, not a verdict, and taking one brave step at a time. Let's flip the script entirely. What if your experience of loneliness, painful as it is, contains within it a hidden opportunity? What if, instead of being an enemy, it can be your teacher? Throughout history, some of the greatest thinkers, creators, and spiritual leaders have spent periods in profound solitude. But this was not always the crushing loneliness of abandonment. Instead, they transformed isolation into a space for reflection, self-discovery, and creativity. Cacioppo and Patrick remind us, loneliness is a sign that you care. It means you long for connection, meaning, and significance. That longing is not shameful. It's a mark of your humanity. When you feel lonely, it's your soul's way of telling you, you are meant for more than this. Don't settle for a half-lived life. Of course, not all solitude is empowering. But when you listen to loneliness without shame or denial, you can use it as a prompt to ask bigger questions. What am I really seeking? What kind of connection feels nourishing to me? What have I outgrown, and what new path am I ready to try? Many people find that their deepest growth, their most authentic relationships, and their most meaningful contributions come on the other side of this questioning. In this sense, loneliness can be the beginning of a new journey, not just a symptom to be erased. How could you use this insight? Instead of numbing or running from loneliness, try turning toward it. Ask yourself, what is this experience teaching me about what I value? How can I respond with curiosity rather than shame? Is there a small creative act, a project, or a reflective practice you could begin not to escape loneliness, but to make meaning within it? Loneliness can be a catalyst, not a curse. The pain is real, but so is the invitation to discover what matters to you, to reach for deeper connections, and to grow beyond where you've been. Let's gather the thread. Loneliness is not just a signal to go find people. It's an invitation to ask what kind of life, what kind of connection is truly worth having. What will you do with that invitation? Let's get specific. How do you actually respond to the survival signal of loneliness in your daily life? Cacioppo and Patrick suggest a connection toolkit. Self-awareness first. Name the feeling. I am lonely right now. Don't sugarcoat it, but don't shame it either. This is a neutral fact, not a personal flaw. Microactions practice small, regular acts of connection, as described before. Remember, even a brief exchange matters. Reframe social threats. When your mind warns you, they don't care. Pause. Ask, is that really true? Or is my loneliness lens distorting things? Set intentions. Each day, set one intention for connection. It could be reaching out to an old friend, joining a community group, or just sitting with someone else in quiet companionship. Self-compassion. Talk to yourself as you would to a dear friend. The journey out of loneliness is not always smooth. Forgive yourself for missteps, for awkward moments, for feeling vulnerable. Seek meaning, not just people. Sometimes, connection grows from shared purpose or values, not just proximity. Volunteer, join a cause, start a project. What matters most is the sense of belonging and meaning. So, why does this matter to you right now? Because every step you take, no matter how small, is a choice for life, for healing, for connection. The science says that these steps, practiced over time, do make a difference even if you can't see it right away. Choose one tool from this list to try this week. Don't aim for perfection, aim for presence. Track how you feel, not to judge, but to witness your own courage. Let's walk with you through a real moment. Imagine this. It's Sunday morning. You wake up, phone in hand, scrolling through photos of friends at a party you didn't attend. Instantly, you feel the sting, that mix of exclusion, regret, and longing. The temptation is strong. Close the app, retreat into distraction, or tell yourself, they wouldn't have noticed if I was there anyway. But today, you pause, you breathe, you remember, this is my signal. My loneliness is not a verdict, it's a message. You decide to take a micro-action. You text one person, not to demand attention, but to share something honest. Saw your photos, hope you had a great time. Let's catch up this week. It's a small step, and maybe it feels awkward, but in that moment, you have broken the cycle. You've responded to the signal, not by hiding, but by reaching. What might change for you if you made this your new practice? Let's step back and see the big picture. We live in a world obsessed with performance, with having it all together, with curated happiness. Yet beneath the surface, millions carry the silent ache of loneliness, convinced that if only they were more social, more interesting, more normal, this pain would disappear. But as you now know, that narrative is false and damaging. Loneliness is not a disease to be stamped out, but a signal to be heard. It's a call to return to what is most human about us, the need to belong, to be seen, to matter. And it is a call that every one of us, at some time or another, will receive. If you take nothing else from today, take this: you are not alone in your loneliness. Every human you see, even the ones who look confident and surrounded, knows what it is to ache for connection. To carry that knowledge with compassion for yourself and others is the beginning of healing. Cacioppo writes, "Loneliness reflects how much you value connection. So what would change if, instead of treating loneliness as a curse, you treated it as proof of your capacity for love, meaning, and courage?" Let's gather our learning and move forward together. First, we've learned that loneliness is a survival signal, a messenger, not a flaw. Second, we've seen that you can feel lonely in a crowd because what matters is depth, not numbers. Third, we uncovered how chronic loneliness can warp perception, but also how awareness can begin to break the cycle. Fourth, we explored the power of micro-connections, small intentional acts that slowly rebuild your trust in yourself and in others. Fifth, we reframed loneliness as an invitation, a challenge to grow, to seek meaning, to create the life and connections you long for. Your takeaway: don't fight the signal, follow it. Let it guide you back to yourself and to the world. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to be fixed. You only need to begin with one step, one act, one honest moment. Honest. So, how will you respond the next time loneliness calls? What's one micro connection you could create today? Who's one person you could reach out to, honestly and bravely? Let me know in the comments. Share your experiences, your questions, your small victories. Your story might be the micro connection that someone else desperately needs. If this conversation spoke to you, subscribe to MindMirror for more explorations at the edge of philosophy, psychology, and the art of living. Next up, we'll be exploring how solitude isn't the opposite of connection. It's the doorway to authenticity. Don't miss it. Until then, remember, your loneliness is not your enemy. It's your guide. Listen to it, act with courage, and step into the connections and the life you deserve. The ideas explored in this video are for philosophical and psychological exploration and are not intended as professional advice. Viewers are encouraged to engage in their own critical thinking and further research, and to consult with qualified professionals for personal concerns.